If I could turn... Oh, sorry, no, that will get TOS for that. Hello, welcome back to Ghostrunner. We're back, and you should be able to see the whole game now. We managed to get it fixed, thanks to Red and Ben for helping out. And yeah, so let's go back into the run. How are you guys doing? Are you now excited to start for the first time today, Ghostrunner?
We're
Yeah.
doing fine and we're excited.
Good. Do you want to just do your... You said earlier that you had your little bit of what you were talking about. Do you want to do your introductions first and then go over that again, just for people who have just arrived?
All right. So, a little TLDR, Ghostrunner is a first-person cyberpunk-themed game. It takes place in a time where Earth is uninhabitable due to an event known as the Burst, and the survivors of humanity are residing in the last stronghold known as Dharma Towers. Our goal is to climb the towers with the assistance of a voice in our head known as the Architect. Without any further ado, I'll let Cappy begin the run when they're ready.
So start, yeah.
Yeah.
And the timer will start whenever we get movement of our character. Jute will probably count us down.
Yep. So how this goes is every any% runner has to experience this cutscene where the ghost runner wakes up and their first thing is to stab a key who we have named Frank.
So timer starts now.
Yeah, in 3, 1. So welcome to Ghostrunner. There's a lot of movement tech that's involved
Go,
in its
Cappy.
speedrun. Oh no. Yeah, but there's a lot of movement tech that's involved in its speedrun, but we'll try not to overload with all of them. We begin with basics like jumping because we still do not have access to a movement piece known as the dash. The dash is divided into two types, ground dash and air dash. The ground dash, which will be visible by a little white curve that will appear pretty soon, and the air dash, which is basically what we can perform when we are in the air. So now that Cappy has access to the dash, he will be able to perform the most basic but fundamental movement tech known as DSJ. It's short for dash slide jump, where he dashes and then immediately follows it with a slide jump, allowing him to cover great distances faster. As you can see, he's skipping a lot of encounters because many encounters in Ghostrunner aren't mandatory to fight and progress, but there will be encounters that we need to get through in order to progress. We'll be going through the first encounter pretty soon. Now in Ghostrunner, we are also one hit, so if we die to anything, whether it's a projectile, melee, or whatever that means is, we can be raised back to a checkpoint, which can be very devastating. But the benefit is that the enemies are also one hit, which makes the combat smooth. The enemies that we are presently dealing with are known as the keys. All they do is they shoot at an equal interval of time, so they're very basic and easy to deal with.
We'll actually be encountering several different enemies throughout the game.
Yeah.
Now, that's the first level already done, and moving on to the second level is going to be a look inside. It's going to be where we get our first experience with the cyber voids, which for speedrunners is one of the not so favorite areas. Also, by the way, this is inbounds. I know this looks a little weird, but it is inbounds, I promise. But these cyber voids are actually, they consist of mostly ledge boosting, which is just sliding and then jumping off of a ledge. We get something called coyote time, which allows us to get a little bit of time past being off the edge to jump, and it propels us forward a lot faster. But since there's no dashing, which DSJs are our main form, it's slower, which is why most of us tend to not. You also get a lot of lore, and you also get upgrades, and there's a bunch of different things to do with Tetris and stuff. Some stuff we'll show you guys later, but for now, we'll just explain it as Tetris.
Yeah, so this big head that you're seeing, this is the architect, and this is going to be the voice in our head for the rest of the game. Enjoy. So the architect is behind the construction of Dharma Towers. He used to run this until he was killed by his associate named Mara. And so Mara is basically the antagonist of Ghostrunner, who we are facing.
There's going to be a bunch of extra movement tech that we're going to have to go over throughout the game. First and foremost, as Jute said, DSJs are a very prominent movement. Ledge jumps, which I've explained, are the literally just sliding and jumping off of a ledge. And The biggest thing is the SDSJs, which are combining the two, which give us the most distance and the most speed. He's going to be hitting a few of those hopefully later on in the round. Right now, he's just ledge jumping through the cyber void. Cyber voids are notorious for, as you can see, all the polygons and stuff covering up the edges. Even though it looks like it, most of them are just straight ledges. It's just very hard to tell, so timing is sometimes very difficult. And with all the post-processing and all that stuff, it's just hard to see. So it's definitely a testament to getting used to the routing and understanding the geometry. Geology. Oh, that'd be weird if it was rocks.
A fun fact, ledge boosts and DSAs are actually accidental. It was never meant by the game devs, but they just decided to let it be. So we are very thankful for that.
Thank you, devs. If we didn't have ledge boosts in the game, cyber voids would be boring.
Yeah.
Needless to say. For a lot of these cyber voids as well, they consist of generally puzzles and tutorials for some of the new power-ups that we get throughout the game. This one specifically is just introducing us to Tetris and a bit of lore explaining why the architect is who he is, what happened. As you can see, the big picture of Mara right here. But other than that, it's just trying to get through as fast as possible. This tech right here, what he's doing is, the reason why he's flying backwards is because he's tapping S. S tapping actually, whenever you're backwards, there is no cap on speed. So if you just keep tapping S at a set interval, you'll just infinitely gain speed the more you fall. But gravity still exists, so you have to stop eventually. But it allows us to get farther in certain areas of the game where we shouldn't normally. And that's about the end of the second level.
Yeah, that's it.
The third level is, what was it again? Dude?
It's called the climb. The climb is, by definition, true. It's a very vertical-based level. As we load in, we'll be introduced with a set of grapples that are vertically placed, and we have to climb over. So what Cappy is going to do is known as grapple canceling. So each time you perform a grapple, Jack is going to perform an animation where he pulls out his hand and shoot a sling like Spider-Man. But we are going to skip that by immediately following it with a sword attack, which cancels out the animation entirely and immediately pulls us up. Now, each grapple canceling gives us 300 milliseconds of time saved, and there's a lot of grapples that we have to use in the game, so that saves a considerable amount of time. Now, Dragon also mentioned Tetris. Yes, the game has an upgrade system known as Tetris, where when we get through cyber voids, we get them. It's pretty much like your regular Tetris, you just apply them, and they enhance your dash abilities, and so on. This is one instance of climbing a vertical level, and yep, it's pretty rough. So I won't go more into Tetris. As we get into this cyber void here, I will explain. For now, our main goal is to get the cyber void in this level. By completing it, we'll be getting an ability that's known as Blink. In the game, we have focus abilities which we can use for combat, and generally the essence that's used to measure when they're ready is known as focus. So focus, you gain it by either killing enemies or just letting it charge over time. Right? Right now is a good time for any donations, if there are any.
Well, I just want to ask you guys, I don't know if you've been able to check out the merch store that we have this year. Have you seen it?
The March story?
Merchandise. It's the accent, I know.
Okay.
It's difficult sometimes, right?
I gotta get used to it, man.
That's okay. That's okay. I mean, I'll talk about it just now, and maybe that'll help you get used to it. But we do have the merchandise store this year, which all proceeds of that go towards Save the Children. And we have some really cool art, one from John Devlin, and we also have some from JMV, who both are incredible artists, and I would highly recommend checking out their Twitter. And they also have some stores on their Twitter where you can get even more art. But our merchandise is only for a limited time, and I'm not going to reveal when that time will close, because, why would I want to do that? I like to be a bit teasing, a bit more interesting, and keep you guys on your toes.
Yeah, I should check that merchandise out, and at the same time you need to check this section, because this section pretty much defines the verticality of climb, just grappling all the way to the top. We also have only one mandatory combat encounter, and it's pretty stuck because of enemy positioning, and we are only limited to our sword at the moment. So after that combat encounter is cleared, then we'll be able to access this cyber.
Early on, this is one of the hardest actual like kill rooms that we have because there's just so many enemies in such a small area. It's very easy for them to just shoot you because you just kind of run at them, but faster than they can shoot you.
Yeah. And that's the encounter. Welcome, Cappy. And so we are going to enter the cyber for the client. So the gimmicks for cyber from here on are going to be that they have different themes of puzzles. This theme is we need to arrange these platforms such that they fit together in order to proceed. So once we are done, we are gone through this puzzle, we'll be able to access the blink. So the next part of the cyber here will be a tutorial on how it works.
Blink's actually really good. We use it for mostly movement later on in the runs. It allows us to just kind of jump into the void and blink to an enemy and get back to where we need to go. So it's just a little bit quicker than running through the enemies especially.
Yeah. The benefit of blink is you can kill multiple enemies at once if they're in your line of sight. And you can also use it to cut through projectiles that come towards you, which minimizes the risk of dying to any projectile. The other benefit of blink is that no matter the shield that the enemy is covered, you can still kill them through that shield.
Cappy actually went for a little bit of a sequence skip right there. If you put your overlay up as soon as the game is fading to black, you will actually be able to skip the tutorial menu for the upgrades. And what you saw was indeed the Tetris we were talking about. You'll see a little bit more of it later when we put in some of the upgrades.
Yep.
But skipping that saves quite a bit of time because as you saw, he was just kind of had to sit there and mash space. But whenever you have the overlay, you're actually pushing the space bar for the tutorial as you're running. So we have to count to 7 as we're jumping and grappling and all the like.
Yeah, the menu skip is pretty scuffed, to be honest. Sometimes you can skip most of the sequences, and sometimes you're not able to. The way this works is when the game is failing, you have to immediately press the menu in order to begin the sequence, and then when you get out of the CV, then it works on its own. But if you die while the sequence is being skipped, then the entire thing gets reset. So right now, Cappy is putting on 2 Tetris modules. One is called Reflect, which allows us to reflect projectiles back to enemies. So the sword's property is basically to block projectiles. But with this upgrade, we can reflect them back to their enemies. And then the other is dash extra charge, which allows us to have an extra dash charge, letting us spam our DSJs even more. So we are approaching at the end of this level.
And that's the climb.
Yep.
Next one we're going to be coming up to is Jacked Up. I believe Jacked Up is the first zone we're actually going to be introduced to the machine gunners. They're basically the same as the pistol keys, but they have a machine gun instead, so they just fire at a more rapid state. But as long as you continue moving past them, you can actually just completely avoid all of the different bullets. Also, Jute, what's up, dog?
Nothing much. How about you, Daddy?
Not much,
Not
but
much.
there actually is a tech called Updog here if you want to explain it a little bit, Jute.
Well, we can get to that later. First of all, we have more pressing matters to deal with in Jacked Up. So
as you see, we are actually skipping a lot of the enemies still. The grapples, as you can see how many there are, it's saving us, even though it's 0.3 milliseconds per grapple, we go through hundreds and hundreds of grapples. So all of the animation cancels are actually saving quite a bit of time for such a short run. And going through here through the secret break, this would be one of the areas you normally use the reflect sword option. I'm not sure if Cappy here does it or not, but with these machine gunners being able to shoot you, you reflect it and you can get some people across the room beforehand, so it saves you a little bit of time here. See, you got the reflect right there. This level is a pretty short one, but it's also really, really fun. Oh, you're going for the beam strat? Let's go. I loved this one. This is how I used to do it back in the day.
Yeah.
It's so much fun.
A bit of a lore addition. There's a character that we have just gone across whose name is Zoe. She's the last living member of a resistance gang known as the Climbers. She'll be sticking with us throughout a good bit of the game until she says adios.
There's a bit of a story afterward, but we don't want to spoil it for anybody that decides they want to play it for themselves. We got time for a donation if you have some.
I was just going to say that this year we have a few giveaways. One, we have a Hero Edition Elden Ring chair from Noble Chairs, who have partnered with us for the first time. We also have 2 Elgato Stream Decks, thanks to Elgato for those, and those will both come with custom SCM faceplates, which is really cool. And I've seen them, and they're really cool. But I'm not going to tell you how we're going to do those giveaways just yet, because that's spoilers. And, you know, like these wonderful commentators said, you know, we're not going to spoil it for people.
Gotta see what comes next, man.
Exactly.
Just keep watching and keep listening, you'll see. But this room right here is honestly also another really, really hard room. It's covered with shield generators, as you see the little round balls there with the blue, I don't know what you call it, ethereal coming out of it or something. But they're actually protecting certain enemies that you can't slash with your sword, but when you use your abilities, you can actually go through them. We use it quite a bit later on in the run. It's one of the harder early game kill rooms for sure.
Yes. As we progress through the game, we will be having more enemies and increased density, so it will make it more difficult to get through the route. So such instances of encounters will be very difficult for players to get through.
Come on, Cappy, you got this.
Yep.
Gotta breathe, gotta calm down, it's the nerves. Yeah, the blink going through that, he's the one we normally have to kill with the blink for the shield generators, because afterward we usually path across the shield generators to kill them. Oh no.
Oh, that's
You got this, man, I believe. Is there any other announcements that you needed to show, Wolf?
What am I doing?
I don't know, Captain. What are you doing?
Well, I'm trying to go through this room. Like,
I couldn't resist when you asked that.
Yeah,
it just was like perfect
very,
timing.
There we go. Now we got it.
And he got it. Let's go. Alright.
A little bit of a rough run, but nerves sometimes get to you. I've seen him do it several times. Usually doesn't take him that long, I promise. These nerves are getting to you, aren't they, Cappy?
And that's... Alright,
checked out,
so... Yeah, so Dragon, you said what's up, dog?
Yeah, what's up, dog?
Alright,
much.
if we are okay, if we are being serious here though, updog is a way to skip some part of the elevator that we are waiting in. So when the third last light, which you can see in the left or right corner, is beginning to fade, the player jumps, enters sensory boost, and as they hit the ground, they release the sensory boost, which ends up using their ground dash and air dash at the same time and lunges them upwards. This allows them to mantle the elevator platform, and this way we can skip the elevators generally.
It saves a
There's quite
couple seconds at a time,
Yeah.
usually, I believe.
Here we have some upgrades here. Well, not upgrades to be specific, but just power-ups, which will be seen throughout the entirety of the game from here on. The one that we have right now is known as bullet time. What it does is it pretty much slows down time, but you can still move fast. We
There's
have
actually a really cool Brian Auto strat later on in the level here that uses one of them to cross 2 separate areas where you're supposed to have 2 different power-ups. It's really, really cool.
Yep. If you don't know Byron Idol, he's one of the prominent commentators and he's an amazing speedrunner, especially for Titanfall 2. And he used to be pretty active during the release days of Ghostrunner. There's also a set of contraptions that we are introduced to, which are just the spinning blades. We are not able to get through them with our normal speed, and that's where the power-ups come into play. However, some exceptions can be made pretty soon. So previously in Jacked Up, I mentioned that as we go towards the levels, the enemy density increases. This is an instance where the enemies are positioned in such tricky manners to easily snipe out our players while they're routing. So it can be rough. And right
Use
now
a-
and
Oh, you're gonna go for the upgrade? Okay, you doing it? Okay. Here's one of the very first main like areas you just kind of block down. That little, the bottom right, or I think bottom left also has it, but it's a little bit less prominent. You can just kind of walk straight through it. Right there. Jack's a little short. Trim his haircut a little bit.
We also have a new enemy variant here. They are known as the sluggers. They're mostly close quarters based, so when you're at a distance, they'll leap towards you and try to attack you.
Where
But
am
if
I?
you're on, but if there were some
Auto
stairs.
target.
Yeah. But like
Here's
if
one of the
there-
sections where you do the blink skip. Usually it goes to the far enemy, but for some reason he keeps getting auto targeted right back to the very first one. So
Yeah. So as I was talking about the slugger, if you're far away, he will jump towards you and attack you. Otherwise, if you're close, he will try to lunge towards you. We can use the slugger's AI to our advantage in certain encounters, especially in this one, but we won't be seeing it here. Nice.
now breathing actually has one of the first really kind of hard puzzles in the Cyber Void that's coming up here in a second. For casual players, it's kind of daunting because you have to essentially twist a bunch of different lasers to form a power grid to open a door. And it can be pretty weird looking when you're not used to it, but we have a very set specific way to do it, and it's the fastest way we can do it, and it just looks like we push a bunch of buttons. That's all it does.
Yeah, it's some speedrunners found out the fastest method to do so, so we are grateful for that. Or otherwise, in general, it would be difficult. I remember in my first casual playthrough, it took me over 10 minutes, and I had to end up using a YouTube video in order to find out how to get through.
It can be very, very daunting at times. Alright, here we go in the Cyber Void. We also get a bit of more of a lore in here. I don't think Cappy has his sound on for dialogue. Usually we run without it because when you hear dialogue for the 100th time, it gets very repetitive.
Yeah.
As you can see, he connected the powers and he just powered up the door. Oh, he accidentally hit the button. There we go.
Yeah, let's mess up first.
If you turn it a little bit before the animation of the previous one is done, it'll actually turn it before. Usually whenever you turn one button, it'll turn all of the circles at the same time. But if something's locked in, it won't. And there's a little bit of leeway. We actually use it in this room right here. Because we actually need to turn the far 2 before the last one. So we wait for the animation to be continuing for the very far left one while we're turning the 2 right ones in order to complete it faster.
Now that the side was done, Cappy will be equipping 2 modules and removing 1 for space. So he'll be removing the deflect module, but he'll be putting on side-wide attunement and dash cooldown. So the dash has a certain cooldown after being used. With dash cooldown, that cooldown rate is increased. And side-wide attunement increases the duration of the power-ups. Now the reason that Cappy has it equipped is because he's going to be performing a strat by Brionato, where there are 2 fans that we are supposed to get through. The first one by the power-up, but the second one there's an alternate route for it. But with this sidewide attunement, we'll be able to skip both of them at once with the help of the bullet time upgrade. I mean power.
It's a really,
Nice.
really cool strat and really smooth one when you get it right.
The
And
strat
get it
is
just
pretty
right
cool,
there.
but
Uh-oh, he reset
it's-
and got rid of it.
That's unfortunate. The strat is pretty cool, but it's very niche because if you make a mess up, then you will lose the duration and you will not be able to make it through. Which comes to using the intended route here.
But intended route is not that slow actually, like
Yeah, it's not
at
that
least.
slow, but as you improve your PVs, it's just fair to be able to do it. So as you can see, we are actually going indoors because The elevator to end this level is in the middle of this level, surprisingly. There are also some gimmicks and traps that have been activated after we got out of the void. We are supposed to skip them through using the bullet time power-up, but Cappy is just going to wall run to skip these and DSJ as well. So we will not need. And here what we propose the end of this level. Overall, Breathe-In is one of the longest levels in the game, so it's difficult to get through at the start.
Especially at the start. It's such a daunting task at the very beginning.
Yeah.
But the next one we're actually going to is Road to Amida, which is equally a very hard one. The Cyber Void especially is a very hard section. But here we're actually going to see some of our very first iterations of hack jumps and hacking in general. There's a bunch of moving objects in our game where you either block it or it hits you, you die, stuff like that. But we're actually able to stop it with the Dharma chip in our brain that Zoe has explained sometimes. These guys are actually the Enforcers, I believe the name is, correct?
Yes.
The Enforcers are actually, they have a shield, as you can see in the front, and you have to get behind them to kill them. But they do have an animation time of bringing up the shield, so if you're fast enough, you can actually cut them down before they even bring it up. And here's another prime example of going through the shield generator with our power, our upgrades, excuse me. Skills? One of the words. That's one of the hack pieces right there. Sometimes we'll do hack jump, where if you unhack it as you go to jump, it'll just fling you forward really fast.
There's a another strat that's coming up as well, where we use it. Well,
There it is.
Yep.
Well done, well done. Good hack jump. Bryo, I believe, was one that discovered that, to my knowledge.
It was by Brian.
Some of them we don't even hack, some of them you just jump on and go, or just skip over completely. And here, these walls are actually covered in power, so he has to use the shuriken to disable them. Sometimes if you can get it right, it's a very tricky jump on the first one to just DSJ over, but the timing is very, very finicky. And instead of going through this entire kill room, we just kind of say, nah, we're just gonna go buy it. Oh, uh-oh.
Yep, but we have a certain contraption that's preventing us from going through.
There you go. Yeah, Road to Amida it's a lot more kill rooms than normal, than we've seen in the levels previously, so there's a lot of areas to just mess up and die or get shot, and with having one life, it can slow you down quite a bit if you get unlucky that they just kind of decide to, hey, I'm just going to hit you this time.
Yeah, the AI is unpredictable at times, especially Enforcers, because their AI, for some reason, likes to react faster.
That was a weird interaction right there. He got blown all the way back from the Enforcer after he blinked to him. That doesn't normally happen.
It doesn't.
Here you're normally supposed to wall run on the sides, but because we DSJ or SDSJ over the edges, you actually get enough forward boost that you can just straight up grab the grapple beforehand. There's also a bunch of lifts and stuff. What is the main lore that's happening here? Aren't we figuring out about Mara more during Road to Amida?
Well, we aren't exactly figuring out more about Mara. We are having the trouble of reaching the upper levels of the tower. There's elevators that are going away, and we need to grab an elevator as soon as possible. We have been provided with the alternative of climbing the tower, but that would take hours. So basically, story-wise, we are on the clock.
So it's pretty much just going to be more fight rooms till we get all the way up to the Cyber Void. So if you have any donations or announcements, now is probably a good time to get one in.
We do have a $20 donation from Senpile saying, can't believe they were able to get the legendary Jute to comment on this. Good luck and speed. Thank you for your donation. Why do you say, oh god?
You know Senpai?
I do know him. He's a Doom Eternal speedrunner. Do check him out.
Another really cool run. It's been quite a few of those now. Is it? You said Eternal?
Yes, Doom Eternal. Specifically 100%.
Heck yeah. All right, and here's the Cyber Void that we're getting to. This Cyber Void is after the puzzles. This one introduced a little bit more of a false wall type stuff. We know where we're going, so unless we have to specifically go through one of them to open up a path, we just kind of know where we're going. We just kind of phase through walls. It's fine. There's actually a bridge here. You just can't see it. And we just skip right over it. This is one of the few where you have to actually kind of look to open up the jump pad, but there's these orbs that you have to collect to open up balls, and there's a certain section later on during the tutorial for the new upgrade, Tempest. Tempest is a very, very, very vital upgrade for this run. It allows us to actually clear rooms insanely fast. It is so nice. There's upgrades to allow it to increase range, as well as when you kill 2 or more people, it will refund you the upgrade. So therefore, you can kill like 6 people in a row as long as you're killing 2 up at a time. But this next section has a global timer on it for the certain movement of the moving platforms. And if you've had enough practice and had enough time, it's really amazing to be able to get it. But it's one of the hardest tricks in the game, because even one slight little mantle and it throws you all off on the global like rotation of it.
Yep.
So it's definitely one of the most daunting tricks in the game. I don't believe Cappy's going for it, and I don't blame him, especially in a marathon run. Oh, and speaking of that, for marathon run stuff, usually at the end of a level, to save time on in-game time and stuff for live splits, we actually usually quit out. It saves like a couple seconds at the end of almost every level. I don't remember the exact time save, but it saves quite a bit. But for marathon purposes, we're not actually doing that. It's jarring and it's a lot of stuff. And one thing I haven't mentioned as well is when you see him like kind of blink, the screen blink a little bit, and he kind of teleports to a new section, that's actually called an instant restart. It was a very back and forth deciding on whether we would use it for speedruns or not for this game, but ultimately it ended up getting approved. And whenever he does that, he's essentially hitting a hotkey that will restart him at the next checkpoint. And after you complete a bunch of combat rooms, usually the checkpoint is at the end of the room next to the door to move on. So it's actually just faster to just hit a button and continue going.
Yeah.
And when you get used to it, it can be very fluid and flowing with it. But at first, it was a very jarring experience. And that's Rodamida.
Alright, so now that we have unlocked Tempest and its upgrades, we are still not going to equip them to use it to our fullest potential. We'll be using Tempest as it is, but only like once. So run-up is pretty short. It's the level before we encounter the first boss, which is known as Tom. I won't go much into it. I'll let Dragon do the explanation when we get to that. But run-up is pretty short as it is. It is also very tiny, to be honest. Now, we have these lava contraptions and laser walls that we need to get through. The encounter that we are going to go in is pretty scuffed. The contraptions are moving in, which we could end up dying to if we're not careful. And these enemies, even though they're basic, are positioned in such a way it's tricky to reach them. But Cappy has made effortless work.
Oh, runner. Commentator's curse. Why did you have to say something? Come on. These are more little things that'll end up killing you if you hit them and stuff. There's a bunch of different hazards throughout very many of the levels. We're trying to skip over them, but sometimes you have to. It's weird. These laser walls are actually really funny. Sometimes, if you just hit them, sometimes you'll just end up running over them. We don't really know why. They just don't kill you sometimes. Same with some of the lava blocks. It's really weird, really niche, and just random.
Yeah.
Have you talked about the geckos or mechs yet?
Yeah, about to. So we'll be introduced to a new enemy type that's known as the mechs or the geckos, whatever they are called as. Their gimmick is that they shoot a heat-seeking laser that spreads as it covers more distance. They have insane tracking, so it's difficult to deal with them, but we can take advantage of sensory boost generally, but that's for casual play. Otherwise, you need to be as rapid as possible in order to avoid and get to them. So
You went for the tray strap for a second there.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, that gecko just did not want to shoot you at first. There you go.
The tray stat is pretty difficult. And this way we're going to be seeing Tempest in a bit of an action, which is deflecting the projectiles for that.
Tempest is insane. It is one of the most useful upgrades in this
Like,
run.
why didn't it just...
It's finicky, man. Sometimes the game just doesn't want to help.
Yeah. It's also that you do not have the range upgrade, so you might be out of range with the deflection.
There we go. Now, coming up here on this next one, that was run up, by the way. The next one is our very first boss we come up to. Is the level's called the Gatekeeper. The boss, some of you, if you've played the game, know it's Tom. Tom has a lot a lot of lasers. Usually you have to use the grapples and the platforms to kind of jump around and puzzle them, but we actually have a certain route where you just kind of jump around them. And when you see the 2 cords at the top, you're supposed to cut 2. He has 3 phases. 1 cut goes to phase 2, 2nd cut goes to phase 3. But we do it in a certain way where you can actually just get straight to phase 3. You don't have to do phase 2 because we cut the 2nd one at the same time as the 1st one with a little bit of a wonky animation, but it actually is very risky sometimes because if you hit it in a certain spot or you swing too early or something like that, you can either hard lock your game or it can crash. It does not like it, but we found a way. He hit the perfect spot and he swung a little bit later just to make sure, so he did not get it. So you'll see a little bit of a weird boop, there it goes. Now we're on phase 3. Usually here there's also lasers trying to kill us and keep us from, killing Tom, but they're not there because we effectively skipped phase 2. Now, when he hits the core here, it's funny, Tom is the only boss in this game where you can actually, if you wanted to, you can go back up to that core and kill him again, even though it's already dead. Don't really know why it was there, but that's Tom. Simple, easy, done. He's dead.
All right, so now we are going to be entering the next, the section of Dharma Towers that's known as Dharma City. The levels that come under this section are generally beautiful and nice to look at, but since we are speedrunning, speed's our priority, so we will have to ignore that, unfortunately. Sorry, casual players. So from here on, we are going to be seeing Tempest at its full potential. Right now, Cappy is he's not going to equip the upgrades just yet because we need our Tempest to be ready by the time we encounter the first mandatory enemies to kill. We are introduced to a new enemy type. They're just called drones. They can be used to carry over from one place to another, but in certain encounters they do count as mandatory to kill. They're kind of like basic enemies, but just in the air.
We also get the jump up links, which is like the slowdown. It's a temporary power up, but this one allows us to make like a really big super jump. And there he put on his range and Tempest refund. So whenever he kills these enemies up here, which is through a shield by the way, it will refund it and we can use it later on in the level.
The upgrades pretty much complement each other, which is why both of them are equipped.
It's pretty much essential. It's the bread and butter of the Ghostrunner run after you get Tempest. It's pretty much, if we're not using Tempest, we're using our sword. There's only a couple of niche areas where it's actually better to use something else. I don't know if Cappy actually goes for the hack jump here, but there is a hack jump in this level a little bit later using a sign instead of one of the rotating hacks. You'll see some of these have signs that you can actually turn, so you can use them as wall run. We don't usually do it very much because we're jumping right past them, but it's actually a really, really cool jump. I don't know if he goes for it.
No, I just don't say for.
I suppose the jump is very stuffed, so they wouldn't go for it. It's difficult because we do skip some checkpoints. A checkpoint that's new to the encounter. So if they die, they'll have to come back all the way here. But that's the general gimmick of a lot of the risky strats that players do. We skip through checkpoints and we just go all in, hoping that we can get through the section clearly without any risk.
And that's Dharma City. The next level is my personal bane. I am not a fan of this level. Why? I couldn't really tell you. It doesn't click with me and it goes weird, but we have a certain part of this run where it looks like we're going out of bounds, but because it's so close to the normal route and it's not really out of bounds because we're not clipping through anything, we're just kind of using a wall that doesn't look like a wall, but it's been scrutinized and all the moderators and stuff have decided, yes, that is classified as inbound. Uh-oh. And also, we're introduced to a new character. Another new enemy type. They're Wardens, I believe is the official name. I just usually call them Samurai. Or Jerks, sometimes, depending on how mad I am at them. But they actually require you to block their swords in order for you to be able to kill them. Once you block their sword, it kind of pushes out of the way and you can just slice them.
I know there are some Doom Eternal players here. I just want to say the Wardens are kind of the Marauders of Ghostrunner, so keep that in your mind. I'm sorry.
I've never played Doom Eternal, unfortunately, so I have no idea what a martyr is, but I'm sure they're a rough.
You should keep living with not knowing that, right?
Who knows? I have it. I just haven't played it yet. I mean, that was another kill room right there. That was a very, very prominent version of Tempest for the refund. He just killed 4 enemies, and he still has his Tempest, so we no longer have to make sure we kill a certain amount of enemies to get our refund back or to be able to use our ability. This room right here is a little bit wonky because it goes both up, down, left, and right, so it's just kind of one big circle in a kill room to open up another door. This elevator right here has so much collision. It's rough. We used to go all the way up it back in the runs, but we've actually found out that just going back here and using the grapple is slightly faster, especially with the setup now to clear this big jump. Usually you go all the way down and back to get across this, but they've put a little handy grapple in here, and we can just kind of use it to get across. This spot is rough. This gecko is a sniper and a half, but here's the wall that actually looks really weird right here. It's inbounds, I promise. It looks wonky, but it's inbounds. And 2 for 1, we get introduced to another enemy type of this game. It's the sniper enemy type, where essentially it's if they see you, they're gonna kill you. I think it's 3 seconds before they shoot, but if you're in their sight within 3 seconds, you actually get shot, and there's no way to deflect it. No upgrades, no nothing. You just die. So it's best to just stay behind pillars, stay behind walls, or get to them before they can get to you. That's rule number 1, is just kill them before they kill you. And he's going to go over here towards the intended way to actually kill them, so it gets a little bit faster. Now this is where the cyberboard starts. Go ahead, Jude.
The funny thing is, we only see the sniper here, and we'll not see them again.
They are in the game, but yeah, we don't go paths that bring us near them again. But
Yeah.
They are snipers are actually in hardcore version, but like in the base game there's no more sniper.
This cyberboard, the puzzle, we have something called a 4 cycle on it. We used to have something called a 6 cycle, but after experimenting and going through and doing stuff like that, he made the attempt, but unfortunately he was just a little bit too behind, so he had to make a backup here. But basically it's just going through effectively enough that you just get all the orbs in time, and the cycles are technically the turns you see happening. Every turn you see is a technical cycle, so that's why we call it 4 cycle, because we're able to get through it within 4 turns. If you mess up some of the cycles though, and improvising in this area is very, very tricky. Even for some of the top runners, just improvising and having backups randomly, it's not easy, especially when you're used to doing something so precise on it normally.
Improvisation is basically very difficult because you have to basically just do it intended instead of doing it in any smart ways, like any tricky mentals or something like that.
Once you get the last one, you're on to the next level, and that's Echoes. That Cyber Void is one of my least favorite, period. It's so easy to mess up.
So, faster. We are going to be introduced to the boss right before we fight her in the next level, whose name is Hell. She's pretty stinky. She has a DLC, and I have run it quite a lot, but I hate the DLC so much just because of how she behaves. So, Hell has stolen an ability that we needed to get. We're not even going to use the ability throughout the run, actually. But she has stolen
we
it,
don't
and we
even
need
get
to
it.
pursue her. Yeah. So
You'll see why
Faster
in
is-
next level.
So Faster is like one of the mid kind of levels in the game. It's not something that I'm enthusiastic about in general, because like it either goes smoothly or it goes fast, how it is, but it's kind of mid. There are only 2 mandatory encounters that we need to get through. The first encounter, there are 2 ways. One, you can kill all the enemies just by the blade, and the other one is there's a shuriken, a power-up that we can pick up and kill enemies. This encounter is tough, by the way, because of the enemy positioning. If here,
You can get shot so easily,
yeah,
especially by the machine gunners.
the gunners somehow have an angle at you. Oh, that's very rough.
This room can be life or death, as you can see. Even with the shurikens and being able to get them from afar, it's still very rough because they just have such precise aim. There's a little bit of a harder route that you can do where you basically jump on the drone there and you can kill the samurai with him, but it's also still very iffy because you have to turn around and face the gunners head on without a shuriken or anything. So the shurikens usually the safer bet if you want to be able to get them more effectively. These gunners are relentless.
Yeah, they don't seem to give him away.
Their clips are huge. We got the shuriken here. This might be a good time for a donation if you have time.
What?
Sure, I have a $34 donation from Demo Put. God, I almost said it backwards, sorry.
Oh,
so where
Demo.
can I hire Tom for my next raid? Do you guys know where you can hire Tom? Or is Tom not for hire?
Unfortunately, I don't know if he exists anymore. We we hurt him a little bit. We're sorry we didn't want to, but we had to.
It makes
He's
sense.
decommissioned now, so I'm very sorry, Demo.
Rip.
I'll pay you up with some King's Forum.
Listen, I know a good DJ. I got you.
So now from here on, in this section we are supposed to crouch and slide. There are a bunch of traps that we do need to go through, from ring plates to these roller machines. And in order to get through these fans, we need to use these shurikens. That was a pretty close call, by the way. And once we are through this section, we'll be... Oh, that's a boss fight. So once we are through this section, there will be a train that we need to enter. We just need to wait until we enter that.
Sometimes even when the fans are stopped, they still have their hitbox. It's very finicky, and this is another one of the most hated spots because we're forced to slow down. We're forced to just slide and hit buttons with a shuriken. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. We've tried several different ways to get around it, but the fastest way is still just doing the intended way.
This is also one of the reasons why I consider faster to repair, because the train section is pretty cool, but this section really makes it redundant. It's not really nice to go through, that's what's pretty difficult.
If you have any more donations or any more announcements or something, you might be able to get one in.
What was
I was
that?
just...
Oh no, he hit the wall and got the side slide.
No.
Come on, Cappy, you got this. Was there anything you need to disable?
Yeah, no, I was just going to
donation?
say that last donation put us above $800 for, only however many runs in that, I forget, like 4 or 5 now? Which is awesome.
The
I can't be the third, it's got to be more than that, surely.
This-
The fourth! Oh yeah, but we had the issue with QQ's run earlier. That's why it's the third you're thinking of.
Yeah.
Because we had to stop that run in the middle. But yeah, over $800 is kind of insane so far. And just so you guys know, once we reach $2,000 in total, there will be a bit of a surprise on stream. But you have to get us there, and we won't say too much about it just now. Because again, I'm all about that teasing, all about it. Just trying to bait you so hard.
What charity is this all going to again, by the way?
Save the children. Save the
So,
children.
every dollar saves the children. Let's do it. Come on.
Yeah.
It's also really, really cool that you guys are setting this up. Thank you guys for allowing us to come in.
Yeah, it's an honor for us to commentate.
Hey, it's an honor for us to have you guys. Like, the honor's ours. You can't have the honor, it's ours.
No, I want it.
No, I'll fight you.
I suppose a sumo wrestling is in honor if we need to fight for honor.
Only if there's oil involved. Or milk. I'm down. Come on. For the children, right?
I'll do whatever. I mean, I don't care.
Yep, now Cappy is through, we'll be entering the training compartment. Thank you. So, we are not supposed to have this shuriken right here, but we still do, and we are not going to be able to make much out of it because the duration has run out. There will be signs that we need to avoid. That's a new trap we make, and it's pretty annoying, but there's a way that we can avoid these traps by jumping over these rails, which we'll do pretty soon.
And there's actually a hitbox there where if you hit it, these signs do spawn, but we skipped the first one. But we still have to do it for the second one. So don't worry, you'll get your signs. Any of you that know how to have played this game before? Or are you skipping the... Actually, I think he's skipping the second one too.
Oh yes, that's the...
No. I messed up something.
Okay, you still get to see him. So anybody who knows this game and have experienced these signs, you're gonna be happy. He still gets to have them. They are
Yep.
so daunting the first time you ever do this.
Ouch.
Sometimes if you do the skip that he was trying to do, you'll actually bug the game a little bit, where you'll actually end up having double signs. So it's almost like it doesn't become a platform at that point. It's just like one of the what are the games where it's just a shoot 'em up where you have to dodge all the bullets while also killing a boss. I forget what it's called. It's essentially
And
one of those
that's
games.
faster.
Yeah, that's faster. Now we're coming up to the next boss, Hell. As Ju was saying earlier, she's a bit stinky. But whenever I was doing the GDQ showcase, we explained that we don't really like how she smells, so we kind of just run away. But she's had her own DLC. We got to see a lot more about her, and we realized that she never took a shower, so that's kind of why. So we still don't really want to be around her, so we're just gonna turn and run away. We don't like her.
There are different
That-
ways of escaping hell. But we are not going to be following the fastest method. I think that's what, at least that's what I think. Cap is going to grab the jump link that we have right here, and he's going to put in this avoid attainment again in order to increase the duration. What he's going to do is he's going to try not to jump and make it to the platform that's near to the bridge right here, and then he's going to use the jump link to enter, right there. Sorry, I don't know how to speak English, I guess.
And this is the only time we're actually going to be going back to menu in the game, normally, or for a marathon run. Because when you go back to menu, we're actually supposed to scan her head and get the ability that she has stolen. But when you just go back to menu, you can level select, and the next level is actually already unlocked. So we skip a whole entire Cyber Void. But we also don't get the next power-up, which it's basically you just cut the air, make a big old arc that kills people. We don't really need it. We have Tempest. Okay?
Yeah.
So yeah, the next
Forbidden-
level coming up is
the Forbidden Zone.
There
So
you
now
go.
we are going to be entering the last section of the Hammer Towers, which is known as the core. Here the atmospheres are generally gloomy, and there's a lot of pollution, surprisingly, but we are going to ignore that. So the Forbidden Zone is one of my favorite levels to get through. It's pretty straightforward, it's sweet, it does have some tricky parts, but it's also very punishing if you miss some parts because the checkpoints are pretty far and stretched, so dying pretty much makes us lose a lot of time. I'm just waiting for the game to level up. Right now.
These later levels are some of the. It's a very good gauntlet of hard levels towards the end.
So we are introduced to a new enemy type. I can't exactly call them enemies. They're more like an enemy trap hybrid. Basically, how they work is that they scan certain areas and move around. You can see in that blue label. And generally, you are supposed to avoid that. These turrets can also be destroyed, and they can give you focus energy. That's why I say there are trap enemy hybrid mechanics. Forbidden Zone offers a lot of routes from safe and consistent ones to risky and rewarding ones. Cap is going with a pretty bold route of standing on that sign and then boosting off to the rails right here, which is pretty interesting. This is
These
one of
these rails, by the way, are very very slow. We don't usually like using them. We can skip them whenever we really have to, but there are certain sections of the game where you have to use them, and they're very slow. We don't really like rails.
yeah. We generally try to avoid railings as much as we can. Now, as I said, the density of enemies are supposed to be increased, and the encounters will be increased as well. The number of encounters we need to go through. Forbidden Zone doesn't have that many encounters, but the enemy density in the second one that we'll get through is a lot, and their positioning makes it even trickier.
Normally there's actually a strat that you can do that's very risky. Cappy went for the safe strat and just kind of killed all the turrets, but there's a strat where you can actually drag one of the attentions of the sentry guns, and it'll basically aim a little lower so you can get straight through the door without ever having to kill anything. It's very precise and very finicky, and sometimes it takes a minute. But he
Yes.
went for the safe strat, which is always a good option.
There's another routing here where what you're supposed to do is use blink on one of the drones to pretty much skip the entire section here. But Cappy's not going to do that. Instead, he's going to climb this wall, this building, and get on the top, which is pretty safe because it does register a checkpoint. He's going to be so for the second encounter, we are going to be seeing Tempest's full form in its full potential. By the way, Cappy, just remember to equip the range on Tempest.
Oh yeah, ranger.
Yeah.
Thank you for reminding you. This room is actually quite a difficult room at first because these two geckos at the very front can just easily just destroy you when it comes to getting past them. We actually have to bait out one of the attacks in order to duck under it to get by. Otherwise, you just get straight up demolished.
Yep, and pretty much you see Tempest in its full form, just demolishing all of the enemies there. And now the rest of the level here is pretty linear, to be honest, but we try to go as fast as possible at the risk of skipping checkpoints. So if we miss any parts here, then we lose, then we like reset very far back, which loses us a lot of time. This is what
Thank
I
God
mean
Cappy
by-
actually grabbed that checkpoint.
Yeah, that's a pretty safe grab. I'll be honest about it. But yeah, this is what I mean by Forbidden Zone giving you a lot of leeway when it comes to routing and just going through, but it can be very punishing if you mess a part up.
We skip a lot of checkpoints in the when you do the like maximum speed routes for some of this. There is a very, very, very many times where you'll just get teleported halfway through back the level because we've skipped so many checkpoints.
Yeah.
That was
And
Forbidden
that's the
Zone.
end
though.
of Forbidden Zone.
Next up is Rain in Hell, and it is one of the least favorite levels of most runners. Starting out, it was because a lot of it was actually there's certain portions for some reason that frame drops would just happen. They've since fixed that, and it's not a bad level, but it's also just it's very difficult in terms of your movement. We've got fan ducking, but it's also a big difficulty because of the new enemy type that we're being introduced to. There's actually something called a pug. I don't remember if that is the exact name of what they called it in game, but that is what we've always called it. And the funniest part is, it was voice acted by one of the developers, Pugs. Funny enough, Kluska. And they use the voice of Kluska in order to create the sounds for these guys, and it's really, really awesome, really cute. Kluska is great. But they essentially, whenever you get up close to them, they'll explode. Like, if you're anywhere near their explosion radius, they will just immediately, boom, you're dead. So there are certain ways we get around them, or we save up enough power to kill them by either removing upgrades and getting the power back. He's trying to get through the lower fan here. Usually you have to go to the far right and get a power up and shut down the fan, but you can still, once again, just slide right under it. This here, right here, this is actually a trigger point. There's a door right here that's supposed to be going up and down. Oh no, you missed the checkpoint. That's some of the bad parts. Sometimes you're just too fast and forget to get the checkpoint or skip over it just barely from the hitbox.
You can
But
still
that-
go intended and press the button if you need. Cappy.
The section that he was at though, trying to do the when he was going back and forth, there's a trigger there, and one of the doors it's quote unquote jammed whenever you go through it. So you can actually hit that trigger multiple times and it'll jam more, but it just lowers the door some, but you're hitting it so fast that it lowers the door all the way so we can get through it. And we don't usually have to go grab another button to open it and all this stuff, but it's really, really effectively. He's going to go grab the button, I guess, instead of using the trigger option, but this is the button here that we're talking about. Now it lowers the door and you can get through.
I hate the door jam strat that people do, so I always go with the the button because it's safer. Well, not safer, but it's just a one-time thing.
Yeah, if you can get it down though, it is so worth it to do the door strat.
Also, Dragon, about the frame issue that we have in Ring in Hell, it hasn't been fixed yet.
It hasn't been?
Okay. No.
Well, they optimized it more, to my knowledge, because I stopped seeing it. It also depends on what version of the game you're running. Sometimes you can run DX12, DX11. It's less or more in certain areas, but it's just there's so much in this level that it looks so cool, but it can sometimes hinder your performance.
Yeah. Now, there's actually some Tetris routing that's done in order to approach the before Cybervoid part of the cell where we are at right now, and it's all built on the first encounter. So usually, the first one is to remove all the Tetris upgrades and put on Focus Overclock, which is an upgrade enhancing our focus ability duration, recharge I mean. And then the other is just equipping all of the Tetris yet and moving on. The second one being faster, but I generally prefer to remove all of my upgrades and prepare for the first encounter instead of having all of the upgrades equipped.
The way most of us do it nowadays, I believe, is just we leave all of our stuff equipped, but we've found certain ways to get around some of the Pug's explosions. So we just kind of move past them, and usually you get your Tempest and stuff in this room or slightly past it. Okay, there's a couple of Wardens, and this kill room is one of the more annoying ones because this entire level is just filled with Pugs. They just explode everywhere. And you're essentially just running the entire time. That's how you have to do it. There's actually a railing here. For some reason, sometimes when you jump on the railing at the end of this section here, I'll show you, or I'll tell you, I'll let you know. You'll just sometimes hit it and the Pugs will just explode. Why? I don't know. That railing right there, it was... For some reason, when you get on it at the beginning, sometimes it will just explode. Now, Rain in Hell Cyber Void, even though this level is not the best among runners, Rain in Hell Cyber Void is my favorite because when you get this Cyber Void down, you can have it so smooth, so nice, it's so good, but it's also one of the more difficult ones because these railings, we're ledge jumping off these railings and they're literally pixels wide. So it's very finicky and you can slide off very easily. You can just, it'll mess you up, and once you lose your flow, if you're doing it really good, it'll throw a wrench in your plans. But Cappy seems to be getting pretty good on the railing, so we got that good. But more puzzles to open up doors. We got to grab a bunch more orbs, open up more doors. I think, is it 2 or 3 different rooms you have to grab the orbs on? I can't actually remember the number. I just do it.
There's 3 different rooms. We have gotten to the first one. This is the second one, and third one coming up later on. Like
These little...
There's also a 4th one where you use a special ability. Yeah.
This ability is another one that's... The first area is the puzzle. The second area is the tutorial for a new ability. This ability we actually do the Cyber Void for. This one is called Overlord, and it's actually, lore-wise, it's where we start figuring out that the architect, aka Adam, is not a nice person because he's actually trying to convince us to use this ability. Uh-oh.
What is happening? Like
somehow you missed the checkpoint. I don't know, man. But he's trying to convince us to use this Overlord power, which overrides the chip inside of the people's heads to where you can control them or you can convince them to do stuff. We use it on enemies one time, I believe, and they basically make them fight each other. You'll see in the tutorial how he's making them fight each other, but it's very morally wrong, and it's kind of the turning point where we go, hey, he's a bad guy. So turns out there's 2 bad guys. Normally you're supposed to overlord these guys and a box pops up, but if you get a good ledge boost, you can actually hit that boost and just jump straight past them. Unfortunately, from here on out, we have to actually make them kill each other.
Well, while it is right that Overlord is ethically wrong, and ethically and morally, we are speedrunning, so speed is the key focus, so we will use it for that purpose.
Listen, guys, they're pixels on a screen. It's okay.
We are not in the future yet.
And we only use it on the bad guys, so... They want to use it on the good ones. That's enough. This is actually the only level as well that has a Cyber Void in the middle of it, and it continues on with the level, which is why it's also such a daunting level to play. It's very long and very difficult, very precise. We have a few more kill rooms, and we're also introduced to another enemy type. Believe it or not, we have 2 more, including this one to go.
Suppose that in Breathe In also we have that gimmick where Cyborg is in the middle of it, and then we are just to head back to the elevator.
True, that is true. I forgot about that. I feel weird for Breathe In one, I don't know. But they're gonna see some purple guys here. They are called, I think they're called splitters normally.
Yes.
But I just call them purple guys. They actually teleport. As you can see, like they just kind of go from one place to another, and then they have like a big arch that they kind of shoot at you. Big wave, as you can see that he just got hit by right there. They're very annoying because if they're in their teleport phase, they actually will... Why did he go that way? They actually are invulnerable if they're teleporting away, so you have to be very quick. They shoot, I believe it's 3 times before they teleport again. So as you can see, he's just chasing them all the way around, and it's just very... They can be very annoying if they want to be, and they're very precise with their hits.
The problem about these spitters are that their projectiles cannot be deflected by the blade. Blocked or reflected.
What the heck?
So the only way to do it is by using the best method.
Yes. Get that refund so we can use it for later on in the level. And there we go. It's just, a lot of these are just kill rooms after kill rooms, and this is the only level that really has some minor RNG to it, where this guy can, sometimes he'll go to the left, sometimes he'll go to the right. I don't personally know if there's an actual way to determine it, but it feels very RNG, but it's the only section here that really has some of it. I don't believe we see the purple guys very much after this. You know, I don't remember.
We see them in one part of the next level.
Where is he? Like?
So, yeah.
They just teleport away and run. It's so annoying. That's Rain in Hell.
Yep, nice. Alright, so while Rain in Hell is done, we are still in Hell because the next level is going to be the last level before the showdown between Jack and Mara. This level is called Things You Wouldn't Believe. So it's supposed to be a culmination of everything that we have gone through, all of the platforming, all the enemy types that we've encountered, and we have to make use of everything we have pretty much learned through. It's a pretty difficult level to speed through as well. There are going to be a lot of encounters that we need to go through, and it's mostly the encounters that you need to be worried about than just simple platforming and speeding through.
There's some more of your favorite explodey boys, the pugs up in here, and we have to actually move a certain way or else you just get immediately exploded. This first shuriken here, by the way, we have to pick that up. There is no ifs, ands, or buts, because apparently we found out a little late. We thought it was RNG at first when you picked it up, because there's a later shuriken in the later level that you have to pick up, and if you don't pick this one up, it does not last very long at all. It's very weird, so this one is required.
Yes, it was found by one of the Chinese runners. I think their name is Lumi, but I'm not really sure. But they found it out, and it's a saving grace for us. It's unfortunate that Chinese runners aren't able to communicate much because of media restrictions, but we would love to have seen more of them, you know.
Yes.
So we are entering the first encounter here, where we'll be basically using the shuriken to wipe all of these enemies off here.
This is the shuriken in question, by the way, that wouldn't last nearly as long if we didn't have the first one.
Yeah. It's a bit tricky to get through because the enemy AI can be funny and you can sometimes miss your shuriken shots. And you also have to be mindful about the shuriken duration. Because even though we have figured out a way to extend it, you still need to kill these enemies as fast as possible.
Yes. And there's machine gunners and keys, and the aim of the enemies in this game are very, very, very good.
Yeah, and now here it's very much going to be just simple platforming through, getting on rails and walls. And this next encounter is supposed to be intimidating because we will be having 5 wardens, but every set of enemy is nothing against a tempest. Right?
This room. This room.
Oh,
This room is specifically named Hell Room by the community. Even though it's not in Rain and Hell, it is Hell Room because it's just so finicky. The enemies are spaced out just enough that sometimes you'll get the refund, sometimes you won't. And there's shield generators everywhere.
Yeah, there are a variety of ways that players can get through this, from just using their blades to using Tempest efficiently in order to kill them. But it's really rough, and we also need to have our Tempest ready for the next combat encounters. So it's a very scuffed room to get through. But it seems Cappy has made a choice of just using the blade for the next encounter, which is boss.
New enemy type too. Another
Yeah.
one. The last one.
Hopefully the last one. So this one is supposed to be known as the Sweet Splitters, or Five Guys at Freddy's. Sorry, I didn't need to make that reference. So this essentially split into holograms. These holograms, they cannot kill you, but it can confuse the player very much as to which one's the real enemy. You can figure that out by using the Sentinel boost, which marks the real enemy right here.
Sometimes if you use Tempest, it'll count as a refund, but if you hit the first one, if you hit the main one first or something, I forget exactly what it is, but sometimes you just will not get the refund. It's weird. And this is the only instance where we use Overlord, by the way. We make them fight each other, and it's the most effective strat for that specific room. We used to have a Tempest strat, but since they've fixed Tempest going through walls, it actually is a lot more effective just using Overlord.
Tempest used to penetrate through any object, so it was very much busted for this. However, in the kill run patch, it was nerfed, so players have to use Overlord now to get through this as fast as possible.
There's some more of those purple guys. The bane of the speedrun. If you miss them, they can just teleport anywhere.
So we do not have to do much.
This is such a good, like, big end run, like, level. It's such a difficult level to actually get, like, really, really well. Cappy's doing a pretty good job here. This shuriken we're actually not supposed to bring into this room, but it makes it so much easier.
Yep, we are supposed to use the shuriken to kill all of these enemies here, but if we fail to do so, we can either use our Overlord, that is if we have it ready, and we can pick this power-up, the overtime power-up, in order to clear the remaining enemies safely.
Sometimes though, if you can kill them all with a shuriken and don't have to use Overlord, if you use Tempest right there with a jump upgrade, for some reason it has some kind of combination where it will just shoot you straight up very high, and we can actually S-tap skip a whole entire platform.
Yeah.
But this room right here has the cause of so much strife in the community for half the time. Uh-oh,
This
you
room
missed the
is
jump upgrade.
very troublesome. There are different routes that players can go with, but some of them are very scuffed. Some players just prefer to go with the intended routes, so it's a very tricky route to get there. It's simple, but it's tricky just for the sake of speed.
Yep. And that's things you wouldn't believe. And now we're on to the last and final boss, which is Mara. Now, I don't know if you covered Mara too much, but Mara is basically the big bad guy. And they're the one that's trying to change humanity, basically into those pugs you see, to be able to survive the outside world, which is post-apocalyptic. And we don't want that. A lot of the people living in the Dharma Towers do not want that. So everybody's kind of fighting back. And we find out that...
Yes,
wasn't it...
update.
Huh?
Finally did a good update. Yeah, cool.
Yeah, we find out that the architect was actually working with Mara originally in order to create some of these things and a lot of the other bad stuff and things that have led to a bunch of just strife and pain. But we kind of just... We're going to be fighting Mara here. This is the last and final boss. She likes to play jump rope. Some of you might recognize she kind of looks like Doc Ock. A bunch of octopus arms. It's a very fun fight, but it's a little slow for speedruns, so it's one of the ones that is very weird. But at the end, we actually usually have a special strat where we have an upgrade specifically that we put on that increases our width of our blink. And it was found in Kill Run that if you use that on her last phase, it actually ends up killing her last bar, and you don't have to do the final phase. You can skip it. But it will cause a bit of a audio glitch if you let it run through. But there's also a separate section where we use something called the pause overlay glitch, where if we use our ability and the pause menu at the exact same time, it will actually overlay the pause menu, and we'll be able to skip the entire last cutscene. And Mara will actually T-pose however you can T-pose with octopus arms. It's weird, but
Yep. It's a
I don't know if
very rough
Cappy's
strategy.
available.
Yeah. It's very rough. It requires specific frames as well, if I remember correctly. In-game frames to be specific. And if you choke that, you will most likely either die while you are having the cutscene go on, which I'm not gonna watch. So it's very rough, and I think Cappy is going to avoid it most likely. I'm not sure.
Are you doing the blink strat? Cappy,
No,
for the
I'm
final
not.
phase or no?
No, I'm
No?
not doing this time.
Okay. So unfortunately, we won't be able to get to see the T-pose, but we will be able to get to the official last level, which after this we kill her, and I believe we're technically hacking into her or into the mainframe or something. I forget the exact reason. Do you remember, Juke?
I have no idea. We were just sent to the Cyberwatch for some unknown reason.
I'm honestly not gonna lie. It's been so long since I've watched the last cutscene that I forget why we do it. But we get to go to a last Cyber Void, which is the last level, the end-all be-all, and it's where we end the game. So after this fight, we'll be going to the last level. It's one of the harder levels. There's actually really cool tricks about it. Juke will get over that when we get to it.
Until then, if there's any announcements or donations, right now is a good time because we still have half of this boss fight left.
Yeah.
Well, I just typed in chat, but I'll just say to you, I mean, the reason you're doing this is to save the children, obviously. There's no other reason to do it. I mean, I'm pretty sure that's canon in this game, right? I've never played it. Well,
We're trying to save everybody, but the children are the most important.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. Just to let you guys know that after this, we have Alnak running Jedi Outcast 2, which will be really, really cool. And a few runs after that, we're going to have a few runs with incentives. Now, one of the incentives is met. One of them has not met their incentive yet. So when you donate, what you want to do is put your money towards an incentive. Now, you can choose multiple incentives over one donation. So if you have a $10 donation, you can donate $5 to one or $5 to the other, or, you know, 6 to one, 4 to another, whatever it might be. And yeah, make sure our incentives get met and our runners get screwed over. I mean, we raise more money for Save the Children. We don't want to screw over our runners, of course, because they're also lovely.
Oh man, save the frames. Come on.
Nah, make it harder for the runners. It's much more fun and interesting. And it also raises more money for the children. So it's basically two really good things in one.
Yep.
It's a win-win situation.
Exactly. You get it.
I did want to say, if you are ever interested in joining Ghostrunner as a speedrun game, then you're more than welcome to join the Ghostrunner speedrun Discord, and we will be happy to help as much as we can.
If just Googling Ghostrunner Speedrun Discord doesn't pop up, if you go to the speedrun.com site, there's actually a link to the Discord under the resources tab. If you guys know anything about speedrunning, that's the #1 site for judging time, so
Yeah.
here's the final cutscene. And Mara is dead. It's a very fit ending. It's very funny. She's just the first. We've still got more murder to do.
Yeah.
The funny thing here is the funny thing here is me. Like the funny thing here is during this weird state is that if you actually press S, you'll move forward, and if W, you'll move backwards. Like.
All right. So the final level of the game, which is the monster. Now it takes place in the cyber void, but funnily enough, we have access to our dash, so we can still commit to our movement text, which is great. Now there's actually a glitch where, when hardcore mode was introduced, we also have invisible grapples in the normal mode. Supposedly they are only in hardcore, but they are in normal mode as well, so we make use of these. Now there's a certain skip that we have, which is known as Young Glow, and it's pretty much thanks to Young Glow, the person who introduced the skip. What you do is you have to stand on these walls, and these walls will teleport you to the other side, where we have these jump pads right here.
Essentially, think of them on an impetual just cycle, and like thinking with portals almost.
Yeah. They also run on a global cycle, and they can be finicky. At least the first two I know are very finicky when you're trying to. We also have a very fun gimmick known as bombs. Yes, we just call them balls. We don't have anything better to say. The first part here, they are very random how they spawn in, and we need to make through however we can while trying to survive.
Some of these hardcore grapples that are out through here, you can actually use them to get through the level faster. They're not supposed to be there. It was a glitch due to the hardcore mode being added, and some of them just kind of being usable but not showing up.
Yeah. There are some scuffed but rewarding strats that players have in our just making use of these hardcore grapples used in the normal mode, but they can also be really painstaking. So here Cappy is going to avoid doing the second and third young wills because they are pretty stuck in every manner they're set up and their possibility of happening. From here on these stages with the balls in them, they are pretty much not random, they have a pattern, so they're easy to avoid.
Now, you can actually do the Young Will special on all of these platforms that are moving sideways like this, but it's really hard to get on top of some of them. The first one is the easiest because you kind of just land there. This one, oddly enough, one of the hardest to get on top of, but one of the most consistently teleported ones. Yeah. And once we get past this, we're going to have another section of the balls that you go by, and we're actually going to ask Cappy to count us down for or show us when the time stop is. Essentially, it's when we lose control of our character.
Yeah. And we watch one final murder.
One final murder. We finally get to see who Adam really is. And it turns out he's just some guy with glasses.
He's basically a boomer.
Okay, boomer.
Yeah. But yeah, we are...
Oh no! He was on the jump pad, but he got hit right into one of the balls.
That's pretty
unfortunate. Alright, get ready for the stop, Cappy.
Stop, I think. Oh, no. No.
No. That's Adam.
Yep. That's the time.
And that's Ghostrunner. That's all. It's a very, very fun game. Very cool speed game, like I said. Like Jute and I said, if you guys want to join, there's a bunch of ways to join. It's a very open community, and it's super satisfying to run, honestly. It's a very good movement game. Thank you guys for letting us come out, and I'm just going to say my piece. I appreciate all you guys done, and save the children, and I hope you guys have a wonderful day.
Yeah. Thank you so much for giving us the opportunity to commentate and showcase the speedrun. We are grateful for it, and again, as Dragon said, we are more than welcome to help any potential Ghostrunner speedrunner who wants to join in. Thanks again, and peace.
Yeah, thanks for letting us showcase Ghostrunner. Yeah, but this is probably not yet.
So before we do finish, I just want to say thanks to you guys for running and commentating. Really interesting commentary as well. And the run was really good. And just so people are aware, I'm really happy that Cappy was able to run today because was feeling a little unwell earlier, but feeling better now, which is good. And it's been an absolute pleasure having you here. But as we finish this run, we're also finishing my shift of hosting. I will be stopping for just now, and we'll come back later in the event. So I will pass you on over to the wonderful deck. And coming up next is Alnak with Star Wars Jedi Knight 2, Jedi Outcast, any %. So stick around for that.